All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli, and I have a special guest with me today, Julie Wilkerson. She's the executive director of the Macon Arts Alliance, and I'm so excited to have her on the show and doing an interview with her. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, yeah, this is a great honor. Yeah. Yeah, I kicked this thing off just to, learn about different artists and people that are in the art scene in Middle Georgia and everything. And, we had talked a little bit about this a week or two ago, and so excited to have you on here. And I just want to hear your art background, your story, how you became the director of the Macon Arts Alliance, what your role is, little projects that are going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So take it away.
All right, all the things I love to talk about.
All right.
Um, I'll start out by saying that I'm not an artist.
Okay.
However, I am creative. Everyone is creative.
Right.
So the first thing I will say to people is, when you say I'm not creative, you just aren't thinking about the ways that you are creative. And my creativity comes out with food.
Oh, okay.
I love to
Interesting.
cook. I love to experiment with food. I love to experiment with the way things taste, with the way things look. It's how I calm myself down at the end of the day. So it really doesn't matter what time I get home, unless I've been out to dinner.
Right.
I will cook something for dinner. And if I have nothing planned and I'm just finding what's in the refrigerator and making something tasty out of it, that makes me even happier. So the first thing I would say is to encourage everyone to find their own creativity.
That's
But
awesome.
that
I like
said, I'm
yeah,
not an artist. Everyone is not an artist.
right,
Everyone is
right.
creative.
Well, in a way,
Artists,
that's kind of an art in a way.
yes, it is. And an artist, artists are trained. They don't have to be trained in a formal education way, but they have training and learning that helps them perfect their craft. So
Right.
that's the first thing I'm going to say. What I am is a nonprofit manager and a fundraiser. That's what my experience is, and it actually started as a volunteer. um, you know everything, almost a lot, well, everything I know that helps me with my job, I've learned through previous jobs and volunteer work. So I guess it started when I was young with the Junior League of Macon. I was part of that organization for about 20 years, and I was treasurer, I was president, I was placement chairman. And when I look back over that career, I realized that through those 20 years of volunteer work, I never actually did any community service out in the
Mhm,
community, which
mhm.
sounds horrible. But it was all administrative for that nonprofit volunteer organization, and they had excellent training. I happened to be the president the year that the Junior League celebrated, Association of Junior Leagues International celebrated their 100th anniversary. They were founded in New York. And so I got to go to New York and heard Maya Angelou speak. So that was really fantastic and very inspiring. I was an English major, so I do love to write. That is something that comes in handy with grant
Right.
writing and press releases and
Sure.
communicating and telling your story.
Right.
So that was really where it started. And then um, not long after that, my children were older. One had gone off to college, the oldest one. The middle one was in high school. The youngest one turned 16 and could drive herself everywhere she needed to go. And the Macon Volunteer Clinic had just opened in 2003. And one of the board members called me and said, "We need a development person. We have opened this clinic and we had a lot of money to open it. And now we're like, yikes, we've got to keep it going.
Right.
Would you be interested?" So it was just a call out of the blue.
Mhm.
And I was like, I really don't know anything about like fundraising, but I thought about all the things that I had done for the
Right.
Junior League, and I accepted that it was a part-time position. It was perfect for me. I
Mhm.
worked with the most wonderful leader, Valerie Biskey. She taught me so much about how to be a good leader of people. And I so much appreciated that. And they also let me take some classes from the Georgia Center for Nonprofits to learn about grant writing. I learned how to ask people for money, how to write a development plan. And it was a great experience for a great organization.
That's great.
After I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then my daughter actually, maybe right before she graduated, in that same meantime, by the way, I was volunteering for arts organizations. So my daughter danced. She was my youngest child, and it was easy. You know, when it first started, I took her to Nutcracker. She was a mouse when she was 8 years old. And the mice are there for a total of 45 minutes. So there's really nothing to do, right? Sit in your car. A lot of mouse moms sit in the car. And I thought, well, they needed a volunteer to be the mouse mother. So I thought, well, I'd just soon do that as sit in my car for 45 minutes in December. And I just started volunteering with that organization and ended up being on the board for 10 or 11 years through her whole dance career. And I, was the treasurer and, did all of those things and really enjoyed it and really started understanding the importance of arts and performing arts for our community, but also for the children that dance there. That was really important.
Do you know or remember Ellen Wolf?
Yes, I do. She was the props person.
Yes, I used to work for Ellen.
Oh, Ellen was great. And she, that's another thing I really learned volunteering for Nutcracker. Everybody had their job, right? And Ellen's job was props. And some of the girls I can remember, they would say, you got to be careful when you go around the props table or Miss Ellen will get mad at you, if you knock a prop over with your skirt. And I'm thinking, yes, and she should. So that was, that was a great experience of teamwork and also the dancers understanding what goes into performance, right?
All the behind the scenes things that go on.
Yeah, 100%. So I really was, and then she continued dancing and I was on the Middle Georgia Youth Ballet Board for 6 years, which is a very small dance company, nonprofit, auditioned from several different dance studios, very small budget. And really, worked hard with them to make sure that they stayed financially stable and were able to provide the things they wanted to provide for the girls. So I got a good education in how hard arts organizations have to work for funding. Tickets don't cover nearly the cost of what it costs to put on not just a production, but to keep an organization alive for a year, even if they have very few or no paid employees. So all the time that I'm working at the Macon Volunteer Clinic and with the Junior League, volunteering for these arts organizations and understanding how difficult it is to raise money for the arts.
Right.
So then I got offered the position of the director of what was then the Cox Capitol Theater. And that really appealed to me. It was a newly renovated theater. Again, they raised a lot of money to renovate the theater. It was beautiful. They had a plan, but the plan events weren't really going as well as planned. And I did that for about 4 years, trying to help, again, a struggling arts organization that was presenting to figure out how they could be sustainable. And then I left and went to work for Ronald McDonald House Charities as Central Georgia as the development director. And that was a great experience for me because I was back. It was almost like the Junior League back with a global organization. Lot of opportunity for development, leadership development, professional development, continued volunteering. When I was at the Capitol, I became involved with the Macon Film Festival. I was the president of the festival for 4 years. I was with them when they became their own nonprofit. They started out as a fiscal sponsorship under the Capitol Theater. So again, another struggling new art organization that's now, Nutcracker, by the way, is 40 years old now.
Oh, wow.
The Macon Film Festival is 20 years old now.
Wow.
So these are some organizations that have a lot of longevity, and they have it because they have a strong organizational background. So when I was at the Ron McDonald House, I had been there about 7 years, and this job at Macon Arts Alliance came open. And I thought, this would be so great to put everything I've learned throughout my professional career as a nonprofit manager with my passion, which is arts and arts organizations, and how can I use everything I've learned to help arts organizations be stronger and better. And so I tell people all the time, I was 56 or 57 years old before my training and my passion and my talents came together for the same thing. Right. So even though maybe you're doing something, I have no medical training, but I worked for the volunteer clinic. I will tell you, I learned something everywhere. And all of that came together. And it has really made being in this position a really very happy place for me, and somewhere I feel like I can help artists and arts organizations be stronger.
Right. That is awesome. So how long have you been there at the Macon Arts Alliance now?
7 years now. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
I started April 1st, 7 years ago. It was the day that the Mill Hill Community Arts Center opened. Jan Beelan had been the director for the previous, I think, 6 or 7 years, and had really completed that process of renovating that building and getting the center open. And at that time, she retired. It also, Fired Works is in April. So that was coming up, and we called it, we said it was trial by fire, because all of that was happening, and literally Fired Works. But Jan was great. She hung around for a while. She's still around. I still call her. I still need her help sometimes. And she worked during Fired Works as well, just to kind of help, me understand everything that had to happen about that. But it's been a really great 7 years, and I've watched some things grow. We've changed some things around. We do Fired Works twice now.
Yeah.
We used to have another fundraiser in August that was more like an auction party kind of thing. And when I came on, they said, this fundraiser's, it's kind of spent its time. It needs something. We need something else in the fall. And we did a little wine festival for a while, which was really fun at Mill Hill, but not really part of our mission. We had some art there, but it wasn't really what we do. And people at Fired Works in the spring would say to us, do y'all do this more than once? And we would laugh and go, no, why would we do that?
We don't have time to do that.
And the more we thought about it, the more we thought, you know what? We've been doing this for 13 years now. We know how to do it. We do it well. Maybe we should try doing it twice. And so we started a fall. The first one was very small. Fire and Ice in 2019, and we called it Fire and Ice because we added glass artists. And that it turns out that has been very successful. The first year we did it at the Community Arts Center, and we had 12 artists, and then we all know what 2020 was like, but we were actually able to do it in 2020, and we moved to the round building where we have Fired Works, because it is open. It's closed building, but it's open air. And huge. And we've kept it there ever since. So now we have 35 or 40 artists at each event, and it's really grown. And turns out that if you do something well, maybe you should think about doing it more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Mill Hill? Tell me a little bit about that. How's that associated?
So the initial idea for that started in about 2015. When Jan and Mayor Robert Rickert and Beverly Blake, who was with the Knight Foundation then, and a group of people were visiting in Florida, and they were thinking about doing a cultural plan for Macon. But what they found in Florida was an artist village that was being used to revitalize an economically depressed neighborhood. And they all felt like that was something that Macon could do, that we could use creativity and bring up some neighborhoods. And at the time, they were thinking about tearing down this community center that had been part of the Bibb Mill. And there was some duplex housing behind it where the mill workers had lived that would make perfect artist studios. They each had 2 doors, but connected inside, so there could be a studio door and a door to the home part of the building. And so the city of Macon-Bibb County, the commissioners all came in and donated some of their blight funds. And then Jan raised a lot of private money as well to renovate that community art center. It's beautiful. It was built in the 1920s. And then the Urban Development Authority bought the land and the houses behind it. Most of them were empty. The ones that weren't empty, that had somebody in them, they were living in terrible, terrible living conditions. And those people were moved to more appropriate housing. And since then, those houses have been redeveloped. There's a logistic in place to keep the land and the house value low, so somebody can't come in and turn them over, and they can be affordable for artists. And all of the people living in those houses now have some sort of creative background. A few are full-time artists, almost all are part-time artists or work somehow in a creative field. So it's been very successful. We just entered a new 5-year management agreement with the Urban Development Authority. So they own the building, the Community Arts Center building. We own one of the houses that we use for artist residencies, and then we manage the building. So we provide, there's a bakers collective in the back. They are cottage bakers who, because they work out of that kitchen that we have licensed with the Department of Agriculture, they have a retail license. So we help them grow their business. We have a digital resource center for artists. There's some fancy computers. That's my technical word for them, is fancy. We have a large format printer. We have a large format scanner. We have an exposure unit for screen printing, and a lot of digital resources that artists can use. So that's also there.
Right.
We have arts programming that we do there. We work with the ARC to have a music and movement class for disabled adults. We have artist Randy Hart who's a art teacher at Northeast, has done some high school art battles there that have been great. And then it's also available for private rentals. So the Bakers Collective, the rent that they pay funds a lot of the hard costs for the unit. And the private rentals allow us to put some money back into arts programming for the center. So now it's next door to beautiful Bicentennial Park. It's sandwiched between Bicentennial Park and then the pedestrian entrance to the National Historical Park. So we really see a great future for that area. It's been a successful project, and we're excited to continue that partnership with Macon-Bibb County.
Wow, I didn't realize it had all that over there. Yeah,
It's kind of hidden. Now that the mill building burned, you can see a lot more of it. But the park is also very exciting. There's a ribbon cutting for the park coming up at the end of this month, even though the park is open and people can walk in it now. But they've gotten some grants to plant trees. And then the Bicentennial Commission that worked during Macon's bicentennial year had a park committee. And the committee came to Macon Arts Alliance and said, we want to put some really significant public art in the park. Will you help us? So we put out a national call for qualifications. We had about 40 artists that submitted their qualifications and their resumes. And then I had some artists, one from, or some public art people, one from Atlanta, one from Athens, who rated those 40 qualifications. And we came up with a top 25 that we gave the committee. They picked 8 that they paid to do a proposal for a piece of public art in the park. And with the theme of recognizing hurt that has happened in the past, providing hope for people who may be marginalized or have been marginalized, and then also showing the opportunity for healing. A lot of that we have done with the Muskogee Creek Nation, and that was sort of the theme for the park. So out of those 8 proposals, they picked 3. One has just been completed. It's called Even Walls Can Move. It's a giant boat being carried by these giant figures of cord and steel walking toward the river. Wow. One will be completed by the end of, well, part of it will be completed, a 27,000 pound piece of carved Georgia marble
Wow.
will be installed in the park, and that's by a Muskogee artist, Kenneth Johnson. And there'll be a bronze stickball player that will be in front of the uh, pedestal, but the bronze figure is probably going to take another half a year to complete. And then there's another steel art structure that will actually tell some of the story of the history of Macon. There'll be 6 panels. I know one deals with manufacturing, one with transportation, one with music. So just some of the things that have been important in Macon's history. And then there's a piece of local artwork by Tanner Coleman and another wind sculpture that I'm not quite sure who did that, but that
Mhm.
came from a local donor that will be in the park. So that's just one of the things we do as well is as the local arts agency is help Macon-Bibb County when they have questions or things that they want for public art, or how can we make Macon more creative.
Right.
So
That is
that's
so
exciting.
exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. I look forward to seeing all that. I just trying to
I
visualize
was
it in my mind.
so
Yeah.
proud.
Yeah.
One, that they called us, but then also they said, we don't even, we was like, what's your budget? They said, well, we don't know. So we told the artists $150,000
Right.
because you got to give them some idea of what they're building, right?
Exactly. Right.
And they picked 3. They
Okay.
said, we want 3. Raise the money, and they did, and it was so impressive, and it's just so satisfying that they put such an emphasis on art, and how art um, can create that feeling in the park that they want people to have, right?
Right.
To understand what they want better than just saying it, than a plaque that says, here's what we want you to feel.
Right.
Here's a piece of art that actually makes you feel that.
Right.
It's really
Right.
good.
That's awesome. What do you find most challenging as a director?
Um, funding.
Mhm.
But and I know everybody says that. I've lost my earbuds again. I know everybody says that, and it is true. But it's also learning to. One way to solve that is learning to be creative with funding. We have we did actually do a cultural plan 5 years ago. They After Mill Hill was done, we actually went back and did the plan. That's one thing I did, and the Knight Foundation gave us a 5-year grant for sustainability to help us implement that plan. um, and one of the things we did was automate a lot of our processes so that we can do more with fewer people. And I think that's something that arts organizations really need to look at,
Mhm.
And then the other thing that's hard is people operating in silos. Um, we want people to come to us and say, we want some really fabulous art in this place. How
Right.
can you help us?
Right.
That's what we want. If we don't know the answer, we will find the answer or help find the answer. So we really want to be the place where people come when they have ideas. And if I don't have funding, I can help people find funding.
Mhm.
So really just having people come to us is a challenge for us. That's what we want. And I think in general, there's a challenge in the arts community for being undervalued.
Mhm.
I think local art is undervalued. When you go somewhere else, especially a bigger city, um, you recognize the talent that we have, and that they're not getting enough money for what they're doing. There's some smaller pieces still at Fireworks that might be $5 or $10, and I'm thinking, at this $5 little thing you did, I know you're thinking it's $5, but think about the time that went into that, right?
Exactly.
Convincing businesses to buy local art and not either go to Atlanta or somewhere else, or to, buy a print from, Rooms to Go or Hobby Lobby. Nothing wrong with those
Exactly.
places. I go to both of them,
Right.
but let's support local artists. So I think local support for local artists is a general artistic challenge.
Kind of that buy local mentality,
Exactly.
see that in the little shops, the
Yes.
entrepreneurs, let's buy local to support. but you also have to consider the artists that are local too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not asking artists to always donate things.
Right.
People will call us a lot and say, we're looking for an artist who will do this. And the first thing we say is, what's your budget for paying the
Mhm.
artist? And a lot of times they say, well, we were just hoping. If I think it's a worthy cause, and most of them are, and if I have money, which I don't always, or the Arts Alliance has money, then sometimes we'll pay the artists to do what they want them to do. We've certainly done that before, but we never ask an artist to do something for free. We would not expect that, because they're spending their time,
They are.
right?
They are.
And they are professionals, just like you wouldn't ask the painter who's painting your walls white to do it for free.
Yeah. Can you
So,
come to my door for free? That kind of,
right.
yeah.
And musicians,
Uh,
that happens a lot for them too. We're
Yeah.
going to have 100 people. They'll all hear you play.
Yeah.
So why don't you come do that just for free, for exposure? It's my favorite
Mhm.
thing. You say, if I had a dime for everybody who said, oh,
Yeah.
it's good exposure.
You'd be retired.
Yeah. But I do tell people sometimes too, look at your supporters. Look at the people on your board, look at the people who give you money. And if there's an artist who's supporting what you're doing, then you might go talk to that artist about something, and they might be willing to donate their time because they already support your cause.
Right. Right.
But just asking an artist to do something for free because they're an artist is not something that we're for, but it does happen a lot. So
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of people just don't understand what goes into, creating a piece of art. I mean, sometimes people ask me to do a commission, and I start talking to them about, the cost and that kind of thing. Is of course, the larger it is, the more it costs, but
right,
they don't
exactly.
realize how much time goes into the piece before you even put paint on the canvas.
Right.
Several
Right.
hours that involved with that, and they just think, oh, you just put paint on the canvas and sell it. No, it's a little bit more than that.
Right.
So,
The mural festival is a good example of that. We're
Mhm.
fixing to have our third one. And so the artists do come to the festival for less than they would do a commissioned mural. And a lot of the reason for that is they get to use their creativity. So, we explain to the business, the artist is going to present an idea to you, but it's their idea. And
Right.
we're not giving you a mural where you say, I want this to be the mural. That's a commissioned mural.
Mhm.
But the other thing is we call it a 2-day mural. So it's something that one artist can do in 2 days.
Mhm.
And now we have examples where we can say this is a 2-day mural. Here's a 4-day mural. You can see how much more detail it is. You can see how the wall is bigger, to really try to give people an understanding of of what that costs. We use the mural at the H&H, which is fabulous. That's a
It is.
6-week mural. So
I
that
can
cost a lot more than
imagine.
a 2-day mural. But if you look at that mural and you look at the size of the wall and you look at the number of people and faces that are in that mural, then you get an understanding of what more went into it. Artist education isn't, fine art schools are expensive. And
They
the
are.
people who
They are.
graduate from them, whether they're performing artists or visual artists,
Yeah.
do not make a lot of money. My daughter has a very expensive education. She graduated from the Savannah College of Art and Design, and
Okay.
then she got her master's in game design at NYU. And she's not making enough money to cover her
Right. Right.
education,
Yeah.
right? But she's doing what she loves, which is
Yeah.
important. And she is working in her, using both of her degrees. But I remember, this has been a while back, somebody asked if she would just do something for them. Can't remember what it was for, a logo, something, just a little doodle. And I was like, it won't take her very long, just a little doodle. And
Right.
I thought, you know what? This was before NYU. She has a $40,000 education she's trying to pay
That's right.
for.
That's
To
right.
be able to do that little doodle in 5 minutes took 4 years and $40,000.
Yeah. That's right.
So, you wouldn't
We
ask a
disrespect.
lawyer, will you just, write this little will? You
Yeah.
do it all the
Yeah.
time. It's
Yeah.
easy,
You got a
right?
template. Just plug in my name. Yeah. Right.
Right, exactly. So some of that's kind of a pet peeve and kind of a problem.
I
Um,
understand.
it's what it is. But it's nice. It is also very nice when you meet people who 100% understand it. We have a great client who lives part of the time in California and part of the time in Macon, and he buys all his artwork here
Oh,
because
wow.
it's so much less
So good.
expensive. He even
So good.
ships it there, and he understands how good it is because he has seen artwork in other places too.
Right.
So it's really nice when people understand what goes into it.
Exactly. Exactly. So what projects or exhibits do you have going on right now, and what's coming up in the future?
So the show right now at the gallery in April is great. It's 478 Creatives, which
Mhm.
is a local artist network. They're led by Aaron Hawkins and Kara Hurd, who are two local artists who are we are giving them a very small stipend that doesn't cover anything they do.
Right.
But they started this group out of love for other artists and wanting to help and wanting to share their experiences and learn from each other. And this, it's a curated show. Sierra
Mhm.
Bush, our curator, that we asked for local art submissions through 478 Creatives, and Sierra curated it. I think there are 26 artists represented. There are about 50 pieces, so it's a really large show. We just this past week had a business and designer open house to try to get local business in and local interior designers in, and it was very successful to show them what local artists can do. There's a variety of style, just diverse artists as far as gender and ethnicity, but also diverse work and work style.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that people can see that when they're thinking about one of their clients and what they like, that there are local artists, that are available to do that. So that's exciting. Then
Yeah.
we're also getting ready for the 20th Fireworks,
Mhm.
which is coming up in April 25th. It opens through May 3rd.
Okay.
And then this is the 40th anniversary of Macon Arts Alliance. We were founded 40 years ago.
Wow.
So we're having a big celebration on May 16th at the Community Arts Center. And then, it's a ticketed event. Their tickets are $40. And then, which really just doesn't even quite cover the cost of the party per person.
Right.
Because it's going to be a nice party. It's going to be fun, but we're also doing an artist market. So the market will be there Friday night. And then that Saturday, May 17th, there'll be a local artist market. I think from 10 to 4 on that Saturday, and the artists will be selling their own work. They're going to get 100% of the sales from their work.
Oh, that's great.
And then we want a $5 admission that will come to Macon Arts Alliance to help us continue to do more things like this. We are very successful with Fireworks, which is a ceramic show, and Fire and Ice, which is ceramics and glass. But we wanted to see if there is an opportunity for visual artists and other all kinds of artists, photographers, painters, to show. The bakers, I think, are going to be there as well, to show their work and have the public come in and see what local artists can do. We're really trying to spend this year celebrating local artists.
That's awesome. That is so good. I was trying to think if there's something else I wanted to ask you. How do people, do you like for people to volunteer and help out and do things? And if so, how does somebody volunteer to help out?
We have some volunteer opportunities at Fireworks and during the mural festival, but um, what we can really do is people who want to volunteer with the arts, we can try to match them up with an arts organization that maybe an organization that really relies on arts volunteers. It's not that we don't want them. I'm not a fan of having somebody come volunteer with nothing to do.
Right.
So outside of those three events, the Mural Festival and Fireworks and Fire and Ice, we don't really have a lot of opportunity for volunteers. But there are a lot of arts organizations out there who do. And who would love the help. So, but also if there's an artist that's new to town that wants to get involved, we want to hook them up with 478 Creatives.
Right.
We have people who want to get in some kind of artist critique group. The Middle Georgia Art Association does a good job as far as like an arts guild. And so there we can help hook people into the things that interest them and the things that they want to do. So anyone who's new that loves art, wants to participate in the arts, is an artist, we would say, come in and talk to us and let us help you find somewhere where you can also make a difference.
Right, right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for being on the podcast today. I mean, it's been great. I've learned so much. Excited about some things that are coming up and your involvement and everything. And yeah, hopefully, maybe in the future we could do this again as things change and new things are coming up in the art scene and Macon. And so, thanks again so
I
much.
would love to. I appreciate you having me. It was so nice. I was glad to see. I've seen you twice this month
That's
now.
right.
So
That's
don't
right.
be a stranger. Come
I
back.
know. I know.
First Fridays, or if somebody doesn't really know how to walk in, first Fridays are a great opportunity
They
as
are.
well.
I am so.
And not just for us, but for all of the galleries downtown. They're
Oh, yeah.
all open on first Friday. And especially when the weather's nice, it's a great time to get out and really see what's going on.
It's I'm so glad they started that. I can't even remember how long ago they did that, but it's
Mm.
been so great.
It-
I'm in Warner Robins, so I don't mind driving up. And most of the time, what I do is I tell my wife, "Let's go," and I have to promise her to go out to eat afterwards.
That's
And so,
right.
that's how I get her to
But
come.
that's what we want. And it's hard to, if restaurants take reservations, you better have one on first
Yeah,
Friday. And
that's right.
if they don't, you might have to wait, but that's good,
Right.
right? That's fabulous.
I know.
And then sometimes, I said we want to get to the point where it's not just first Friday, where we call that the weekend, right?
Right.
That's just how it is. And really, when the weather's nice, it is like that in downtown Macon too. I also have to put a plug for the rest of Macon as well, though. We are not just about downtown. First
Right.
Friday happens downtown, but there are arts organizations. The Museum of Arts and Sciences is fabulous. Everything on Ingleside and Ingleside Village have
Right.
some very creative
Mhm.
spaces. There's a lot going on in a lot of different areas of Macon, and that's probably another challenge for us is getting
Yeah.
all that out to the public so people can understand it.
And
But
and this past Friday, after I left there, I kinda walked around and I was trying to kill some time because I wanted to meet somebody, and I was walking down Poplar and I found out about Sheridan Studios.
yes, it's
And
brand new.
I
We
opened
have two
up.
or three brand new studios.
That was awesome.
Um, she is a Macon girl, I'll say, young woman who grew up here and went off to school, and she has come back and opened a studio, and she shows her work, but also other local artists. There's beautiful things in there. Lore Gallery is down the street from that brand new, just opened in the last few months as well. And it's a woman who has Dorian Smithson, and she shows indigenous artwork, from a lot of it from South America, but it is the work of indigenous artists.
Wow.
And I know she's trying to get some Muskogee art down here as
Oh,
well, which I
I
think
can
is
imagine.
really interesting.
That would be great.
So yeah, so there's, it used to be 40 years ago, there was the Macon Arts Alliance Gallery, and that was about it. And Michael's, the arts exchange that was above Michael's. We talk about that a lot, where a lot of artists had studios, low cost studios, and you would go on first Friday. And
Right.
where we've come now with so many galleries and art studios downtown is really exciting to see.
It is. It really is. It's exciting. So, but thanks again.
Yeah,
Thanks everybody for tuning in and catching this podcast today. Thanks again, Julie, for being on the show. Please like and subscribe, and we'll check you guys later in the next podcast. Take care, everybody.
that's great. Good to see you. Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.